Welcome back, everybody, to the Forging Roots podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Couture, and this is Forging Friday, Episode 2. On this episode, I just want to sit down real quick. I'm actually just waking up this morning, taking it easy. I'm about to be heading on my way to go to that Total Archery Challenge I've been talking about in the podcast. You may have heard with several of the guests previously. But as I'm sitting here, I just want to hop on and record this so I can get something out to you guys. And the thing I wanted to talk about this week of what is one of those skills or one of those things in life that we can do to forge or create something that makes our roots of who we are and what make up what we do and the way we think stronger is getting into something that I've only recently started doing over the last, say, probably 5-ish years. Really until I got out of high school, so maybe 6 years ago. But that would be reading, which I know a lot of people, especially my age and that Gen Z and millennial age, usually have a problem with reading or say, oh, I really don't like it, I get too bored, or, make up any excuses in the book. But I found that to be true when you're forced to read something, like we were in school, and not actually being able to read something that perks your interest or something that helps me learn. So that can be different for everyone. I got a couple of the books. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see right now. I got a couple of the books up here on the shelf. Which the first one that I read, and before I got into reading books for fun, is right here, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And that was a book that I got because I just started my new job and wasn't really, I wanted to put my best foot forward and saw some stuff on YouTube, I think on Casey Neistat's page originally, on his vlog, that he had him on and sat down, we're talking about the book, and the guy's former Navy SEAL, and actually the book's written by him and his partner, Leif Babin, which was also a SEAL. But anyways, I digress. The whole thing of extreme ownership and taking that mentality into life of when things go wrong, who was in charge? Did you do your best? Did you actually communicate effectively? Just all these things that applied to them in the SEALs, but also apply very, very well into everyday life and business. So that was something I had read and have used that and applied that to move up in the company that I'm with right now. And some days are better than others, but that's always a good one to go back to. And that's kind of was like, I remember reading through that and reading it in only a week or 2 weeks, which for me beforehand was, if I started a book, it could take me several months just to finish a couple 100-page book. But I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I was able to sit down, read this, enjoy it, and I actually learned something valuable from it. It wasn't just because I was told to do something. And from that, I've gone into reading stories that weren't just necessarily motivational or helping me personally in my life, but more just an entertainment. And that, which is now my favorite book series, is Jack Carr's Terminalist series with James Reese, which is the main character, James Reese. But The Terminalist was the first fiction book that I got into and just brought that to work every day, read through lunch, through breaks when I would get home, and that one again finished in that one was under a week. Just could not put it down, which if you guys are interested, you should check it out. It's basically follows James Reese, a Navy SEAL. Some stuff goes wrong with his mission that he's with and his SEAL platoon in the beginning of the book. I think they call it platoon. I could be wrong. But their SEAL team. But something goes wrong, and basically all of them end up losing their lives in a mission that should have been pretty easy, minus James and another guy. And then he finds out that they all have this tumor, or that he has a tumor in his brain, and that it was possibly in all of his teammates as well. So then it kind of gets him thinking, like, wait, how did this happen to just my team, blah blah blah, and it goes through and explores how he's going to figure that out and solve that problem. Really, really good, super violent. So we'll preface it with that. If you're into gear and guns and stuff like that, he's super descriptive and uh, just has a lot of cool things listed in there. So for me, I like that. Some people might not, but that aside, you can still get through and just kind of breeze. You don't have to read through all the description of what he's got in there. So yeah, so that was really good series, and now he's all the way up to book 5, which again, if you're watching the video, right here, Jack Carr in the Blood. Uh, yeah, so that's the newest book. I haven't started that one yet. I still got some other things going. Reading The Comfort Crisis right now, which that's, again, another kind of motivational one. It was recommended by John Barklow, so if you guys are listening to the podcast, him and I were talking and recommended it to me, and so far, very good book. It's following, I think it's, what is it? Yeah, Michael Easter through, he basically was challenging in this book the comfort crisis that we have here in our lives nowadays, with how easy entertainment and being able to drown things out and not even to just sit for a couple of hours with just your thoughts. Like, that's something we don't do very much as humans anymore because we're just so distracted with cell phones, TV, work, just busyness of life, you know. And so far, about a quarter way, almost halfway through the book right now, and it's been really good. Just different studies that have been done and talking about different, like, Native American tribes and different, like, just people through history and how they dealt with comfortability and, like, would send their children out to, like, go hunt animals that, I forget what animal. I'm just gonna say cheetah for the heck of it, but it wasn't. It wasn't that. But something like that. Like, obviously nowadays you'd probably never send your child to go do that, but back in the day, that's what they did. And if they came back, they were back into the tribe, or they were a warrior, and that was how they dealt with it. And if they didn't, well, they weren't equipped, and so be it. Which is very different than how we live our lives now. But just the whole idea behind it, I've really been digging and learning from. And same with, I haven't started yet either. This just came out the same day as In the Blood, is Endure by Cameron Hanes. Cameron Hanes, basically, I've listened to some podcasts he was on. Normal, everyday guy. Still works his 9 to 5, but he was basically the face of Under Armour in the hunting side of things and getting that going up until just recently. He's made the move to Origin USA, based out in Maine. American-made company, and they just started a hunting clothing line. So I'm excited to see what that entails, because everything's American made and they take great pride in that. So interested to read Cameron's book, because the dude also does ultra marathons, which are like a couple 100-mile races, which is insane. Like, just a marathon in general seems insane to me, let alone doing that. I think that can be, yeah, I think literally a couple hundred. Like, that's not exaggerating. He does that. He does hunting for elk, and really, he says all of his training is just to be a better bow hunter. Like, he doesn't do the racing just to race and be the best in the world. He does that in preparation for elk hunting, but yet he does all these things. He goes and goes on these podcasts, and he still works his normal 9 to 5 job in there every day, which is just about every day probably, which is insane. So just finding different people to learn from in books, and you don't have to get physical copies. This is one thing that's kind of new. And nowadays is you don't have to. You can get digital copies of books. And one that I will not knock is audiobook. Anybody that still listens to a book in audio form is, in my opinion, still reading. You're still getting the story. Yeah, you might not be turning the page yourself. For me, I like to turn the page. I like to feel the book here and there. But I will listen to books also on audio when I'm at work and different things like that when I'm driving, because I might not have time later on that evening to start reading, or if I do, I start falling asleep just because it's late. And at least I don't want that problem. So, yes, audiobooks are a totally viable option. And a lot of times too, they have different, like, you can hear music in the background, or they'll add like effects. Like, I'll admit I'm a little bit of a nerd, so Star Wars is one of the things I like, and listened to a couple Star Wars audiobooks, and they'll add in like the lightsaber effects or the blasters and things of that nature. And also have listened to, if you're gonna get Terminalist, they have audiobook. That's read by Ray Porter. He also did the voice of Darkseid in the new Justice League that was released with on HBO, the really long one. But yeah, so he does all the voices there, and it's just something different. And then you do kind of get, or at least I get that like kid feel again when my parents would read me a book, and then they add in all the different voices for each character. So there's something different to it because I don't necessarily do that when I'm reading in my head. So I'd encourage, if you're not gonna want to sit down and read an actual physical copy, start with audiobooks. Start finding either a story that interests you. But for me, it's really been good because of the educational side of, like I said, the comfort crisis, learning things and attributes or extreme ownership that are going to strengthen who I am and sharpen the tools in my back pocket, whether it be business, life in general, becoming mentally tougher. And these I haven't got quite into yet, but I got them for Christmas this year. If you're watching the video, you can see. But it is The Complete Guide to Hunting, Butchering, and Cooking Wild Game, Volume 1, Big Game, by Steve Rinella, which Steve Rinella is host of Meat Eater. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Really good. He's also got a podcast as well. And then also, if you're watching the video, you can see it. But if not, same thing, but it's Volume 2. So this one's Small Game and Fowl. And just having different things like this. And actually, I just got yesterday in the mail a survival skill book too. And like different things of knowing how to set up shelter, different ways to tie knots, what plants, if you're in the wild, are edible or not. Just different survival skills and things that, yes, you can get on your phone, but having a backup physical copy so you can bring it with you, or God forbid anything ever happened, you've got that there with you. I think that's super important to have. Even one of them for me, I've got Constitution, physical copy, written down. Anything ever goes. I think they did a pretty good job in the Constitution. I want to preserve that, so got a nice hardcover bound physical copy of that. Got like my Bible, just things that are, God forbid something ever happen, I have it physically written down. And it can't be altered or changed like a document can be on the internet, I mean, I guess that could be when it's sold, but you get what I mean. It's not just going to be changed like that because it's sitting here. It's done. Nobody can change it. But yeah, that's really all I had to say this week. I just wanted to sit down and kind of encourage you guys, especially because I know my generation in general doesn't really necessarily like to read. There are people that do, but I feel like as a whole, with all the video games and TV and, you guys know we got social media. We've got plenty of things to keep us busy that we kind of, I know I've been guilty of it at least, pushing this on the back burner, not really doing anything about it. The entertainment side of reading, I can kind of see if somebody didn't want to do that. I just think it's cool because you get more backstory than you do on a TV show sometimes. But I really do think just educating and finding different things that sharpen you as a person are more so kind of what I'm encouraging here, is learning, developing skills, finding interests. So if you into mountain biking, find a book on the best mountain biker that there is, or just different. I don't know why that came to mind, but whatever the example. Like for me, the hunting right now is the thing I'm looking at. So figuring out how to hunt, butcher, cook, how to find shelter, how to do backcountry hunting and not dying, and having those skills, and what are the things you'll need. Like, definitely super important. But anyways, I got to get going here because, like I said, I'm getting ready to leave for Total Archery Challenge this morning. Got to go pack the car, and just wanted to hop on here real quick, edit, get this out to you guys for this Friday. And I can't wait to update you guys, let you know how it goes. I'm sure it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm sure I'm going to lose quite a few arrows, but nonetheless, going to be an experience, going to be something that's pushing me and helping me grow as an archer and hunter. So, without further ado, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, weekend, morning, night, whatever it is when you're listening to this, and I will catch you on the next one.